I'm doing it. I'm doing it. Rob, Steve, Bob, Weave. Rob and Steve, Bob and Weave. Add a little beat, and here we are.
There's some D's, there's some Robin Steve on that
There it
pod.
is. We're gonna get it. We're gonna get an intro one of these days. This is a call for help for all of our listeners. If you make music or little jingles, we need like a 5-10 second jingle. Rob and Steve, Bob and Weave.
Yeah,
Winner gets $50.
and yeah, for real, and bonus points, extra 25 from me if they can make it sound like a 2003 to 2007 era rap song.
Nice. Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah,
Maybe get like some T-Pain audio on it.
uh huh. Them franchise boys,
Yeah,
one of their beats. Yeah, yeah, whatever those are called, air horns. I don't know. Those got to be included. That's a mandatory.
yeah. All right. Well, we've been doing this at the end of our calls. I'll do it now. Reminder: if you want to get notifications on this, there is a like and subscribe at the bottom. There's also a notification button. If you click on that, you'll get notified next time we post an episode. I believe there's the same thing for Spotify as well. So if you're like, hey, I like this episode, want to know when there's more, save us to your Spotify playlist, follow our channel, and you'll get notifications when it comes out. Cool. So we are in the second week of August, and this all I've been thinking about past 2 weeks is mortgage rates. So that's what I'm talking about. What happened was, I believe it was last Thursday, some personal consumption expenditures data came out, which is the Fed's favorite measure of inflation. The Fed is in control of Federal Reserve rates, which affects mortgage rates. And so everybody's going to get a little lesson on how this all works. So the way the mortgage-backed securities works is that it's its actual security or treasury or bond that people invest money into. And so based on the valuation of that investment, that's what determines interest rates. So it's not like the Fed cuts rates the next day mortgage rates are lower. It's when people think the Fed is going to cut rates, they'll choose to make different investment strategies. And when they do that, sometimes they'll either invest or pull their money out of mortgage-backed securities. Based on which ways that is going, that is what affects interest rates. So I get a lot of calls like, hey, the Fed said they're going to do this, or the Fed did this yesterday. What did that do to mortgage rates? If we correctly or if investors correctly anticipated what the Fed was going to do, then nothing happened. And that's exactly what happened when this PCE number came out. Looks like on July 25th, so it was a few weeks ago. And so that when that number came out, this says everybody knows the Fed is going to look at that number. They're saying, okay, the Fed is going to make a rate cut because this is the number that they've been looking for, and it's here. Even though the Fed doesn't meet until September. So right now, it is baked into interest rates that the Fed is going to cut interest rates at their next meeting, which is the middle of September. And so whether they're going to do a quarter cut or a half cut is still up for debate. Before this data came out, it was pretty like there's no chance they're going to do more than a quarter. It would be pretty irresponsible for them to do more than a quarter. But when this data came out, it was like, oh man, this is really showing some cool down on inflation. Maybe they will do a half, 50 basis points. And the worry with that is if the Fed does multiple 50 basis point cuts in a row, that pretty much means we're going to be in a recession. It's almost 100% indicator. And so it's a concern that if they do a 50 basis point cut and then they have to do it again next time they meet in October or November, it's a sign the economy's in trouble. But again, back to full circle, the reason that mortgage rates are down now before the Fed rate cut is because people have moved their investments into mortgage-backed securities. And I was thinking about how to explain this morning, so I want to try it with you. So if I know that interest rates are at 6% today, but tomorrow, and like I'm gaining interest on that 6%. When they make their payments, make 6% interest, I earn a piece of that 6% as an investor holder. If I know tomorrow rates are going to be at 7%, I'm not going to buy today. I'm going to hold my money. I'm not going to invest in the market. It's going to devalue that investment because I know if I wait, I'm going to get more money tomorrow. So that's why when rates are going up, mortgage-backed securities are devalued. They're less valuable. On the opposite of that, if I know that tomorrow mortgage rates are going to be lower, and if I waited till tomorrow to buy a mortgage-backed security and I'm only going to get 5% return, that 6% one that I can get today is extremely valuable because I won't be able to get it tomorrow. I don't know when it's going to come back. That level of ROI. And so that's why in a decreasing rate market, mortgage backed security values go up because every time you buy and you're correct, the next day it increases the value because you're just so much more valuable in the current market position. So if somebody owns a mortgage backed security from, when rates were 12% and it still existed, that would be extremely valuable. People would probably pay more than 12% return for it because of how valuable it is. You following all that?
Yeah,
All
makes
right.
sense.
I feel like you're a little bit more advanced than most people on this stuff, but that's kind of how it works.
So, so given that the whole market is anticipating rates lowering in September, just to be abundantly clear here, does that mean that mortgage lenders are already offering lower rates than they were a month ago?
Right. So since investors know the Fed is going to cut rates in September, they've already lowered interest rates today.
And what's their motivation incentive to do that before it's a certain thing?
Because it's never like the Fed does not determine interest rates or does not determine mortgage rates. So
Right.
like if there is a disconnect there, so it's not like when the Fed does this, it directly affects this. It's just kind of how does it relate to everything else in the market, U.S. Treasuries,
Mm-hmm.
CDs, any kind of like long-term investment notes. So that's what the Fed's deciding, and mortgage-backed securities is an alternative to that. So it's not like the Fed is directly affecting interest rates; they're affecting things the competition for mortgage rates. And so when the
Got it.
Fed makes a rate cut, they're doing other things that either incentivize or de-incentivize people from investing in mortgage-backed securities. So with us knowing what the Fed is likely going to do, that changed the investors' sentiment on how much value is in a mortgage-backed security, which is what changed rates. So people are investing different. Like if we knew, like it was public knowledge that Microsoft is going to put an earnings report out in September, and we know it's going to be huge. Like the CEO is out there saying, "Hey, this is going to be our biggest earnings report ever." Everybody's going to go buy that stock before that earnings report is out. That's basically what's going on. And so
Hmm.
we're kind of the price of the stock. And so with that, there's kind of like, okay, well, what should we do? And this has kind of been, my spiel for what either buyers or homeowners should do. So I'll start with buyers. Um, Buyers, when mortgage rates come down, that means that more people are going to enter the market to buy homes. They're going to think it's more affordable, and the more people that come in, it's going to become more competitive. So that house that was $600,000 before is now going to get bid over to 610, 620, 630. However competitive it gets. When rates were at 3%, there was homes that were $100,000 over listing price, and it was selling for $100,000 over the appraised value. So people were just paying extra for it because they thought it was a good deal with the mortgage rates being low.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a really difficult thing to be involved in as a buyer when you've got such huge competition. One, it's just so difficult to get your offer accepted. If you're a first time home buyer and you're only putting 3% down, you're going to get beat out by somebody who's putting 20% down, or somebody who's buying their third home and exchanging equity and putting 40% down, or somebody who's buying all cash. And when you get in that scenario, it's not fun to be a buyer. There's zero certainty in anything, and actually the prices tend to go up higher. So I have a little calculator. It's called the cost of waiting. So that $600,000 house now at a 6.2 rate. If we waited 6 months, rates are now at 5.5, but the price of that home is now at 650. It's
Hmm.
the payment is actually going to be higher if you wait 6 months and rates are lower because the value went up. So it's not going to save you in the value of the home. It's not going to save you in the monthly payment. So if you're looking to buy a house and you're waiting for rates, you should buy the house now while there's less competition. And then when you're eligible to refinance, take advantage of the lower rate because you do not want to get into a offer bidding situation. Questions, comments
Yeah,
on that?
absolutely. So anybody who's been saving up for a down payment, now's the time because to pull the trigger because your down payment amount is going to go up here in a few months when everybody's rates are lower.
Right.
Um,
So the payment's going to be higher. The down payment's going to be higher. As it's the more buyers enter the pool, the more it becomes a seller's market, which makes it more difficult to buy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so I think I was, contemplating when is the best time to buy a house. And I would say it's, 6 months before rates bottom out, whatever cycle you're in, maybe 7 months. So you can kind of get ahead of it a little bit because you can refinance after you've made your sixth payment. It usually means 6 or 7 months after you close. And so if you do that, you time it right. Hopefully, there's less competition when you're doing that as well. Aside from that, you want to do it. The next best time is when there's no competition, when you can write an offer on a house and you're the only one writing an offer on the house, because that's when you'll have more negotiating power, both on the price, on seller credit, on terms, on getting things fixed at the house. That's the best time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right. And so if you're a homeowner and you currently have a mortgage, for most people, it's most important if you bought a home or had some kind of mortgage done in the last 3 years or something like that. So if your rate's above 6, then you want to pay attention to this. So you don't want to go out there and say, hey, I need to refinance right now. You want to put a plan together saying, at this point, I would like to refinance. And so think about what's important to your family. What's your goal with your mortgage? And so if $100 is not going to do anything for your family, don't refinance to save $100. Even if it's going to get you a lower rate, if $100 doesn't mean anything, don't do it for $100. Figure out what that number is. Is it $500? Is it some people it is $100? When I did my refinance, it was 6 months after I bought my house, saved $120, and it was great. And it was a big relief for us because we were struggling to keep up with it. But for some people, it's just kind of like they want to be able to brag about their rate. That's what's most important to them, where they just think lower interest means better all around. So for them, it's just, okay, when rates hit X, I'm going to pull the trigger. And so I have some clients who are just like, okay, if we get to 5.2, I don't care, we're doing it. And I have one client where he's at like a 7.6, and I'm like, if you did this right now, you would save $300 or $400 a month, and that's like pretty significant for his neck of the woods where he's at. He's like, no, I think rates are going to come down. I'm going to wait. I'm like, all right, it's up to you. People have different goals, different incentives, different things that are important to them. If your goal is to pay off your mortgage early, then you kind of want to wait to get to the bottom and just kind of guess on when the bottom is, and then re-amortize your loan based on that.
Mm-hmm.
What I typically recommend for people doing that, this is going to be a little bit of a tangent, but instead of getting, say, a 15-year loan, get a 30-year loan and pay it as if it's 15 years. You'll pay it off in like 17 years, but you'll have the flexibility that if anything happens, you lose your job, your household size changes, you have the flexibility to make that lower payment if you want to. One specific instance of this was, I'll just go ahead and say it, my dad. He owned a house in Hilton Head. He wanted to pay off his house quickly, so he got a 15-year loan. And I said, I'm not sure you want to do that because, something might happen, something might change. Just do the 30-year and pay it as if it's 15. It's pretty close. He decided to do the 15-year. 3 years later, he moves across the country, gets a new job, and then he puts a renter in there. That rental property doesn't cash flow because he's on a 15-year payment.
Mm-hmm.
If he was on a 30-year payment, he could just start making the minimums, and he would have cash flowed, a couple $100 a month at least.
Hey. Yeah. And
all
why
right.
not? And why not refi at that point? Because rates were too high, so it didn't make sense.
Yeah, because he had done the refinance at the right time. I think he had gotten in like a 2.7 or something on a 15-year. If he would have done a 30-year, it would have been like 2.9 or maybe 3. And so he wanted to lower interest rate and then pay it off quicker. And then at the time that he moved, I think rates were up to like 4 or 5%. So it didn't make sense.
Somebody told me the other day that during COVID, they refied their house that they had almost paid off. But they refied it and got a 1.9% interest rate, and then used that cash out to pay off the mortgage of their vacation home, or the home they were moving to. And then they maintained ownership of both, right? But had you heard about that before? Was there such thing as a 1.9% rate, maybe a rate buy down or something?
I mean, I've never seen it. I would guess that when rates were in the 2s, you probably could have paid 3 or 4 points and gotten there. But there was nobody offering that at no costs.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, cool, man. Well, I'm excited to see what happens. I also wanted to kind of mention on here too. I just learned about this program, and I'd shout it over to you. We didn't get a chance to talk about it, but there's a program called NACA, NACA, and it's a mortgage product for people of color. who meets, they have to be a certain income requirement or maximum, which so I qualify for both of those because on
Did
paper I
you
pay.
did you find something on their website that said you have to be a person of color?
Um, I assume that you can't be excluded, that any person could do it, I guess. I mean, I don't know if they would tell you no.
Any lending institution cannot say because you're of this race you can't do this.
Yeah.
It's a
So,
direct violation of the CFU. So like I remember I looked on the website and I was like, I didn't see anything about, if you're this nationality or whatnot, but there was just kind of like when I reached out to him, it was just like, hey, sign up for our courses and we'll see what works best for you. It wasn't anything
yeah.
direct.
Yep. Yep. I found the same thing. You had to take the course to see if you're eligible, kind of thing. So I signed up for the course. It's self-guided online. It's like 4 hours. So next time I'm on a plane or something, I'm going to see if I can't get that done, or have some downtime. But but yeah, technically I'm half Puerto Rican, so I am half Puerto Rican, so technically I would qualify it if being a person of color is a requirement. But and we definitely don't make 80% AMI, so um, it'll be interesting to see if that's something I can do, especially if the rates are lower than like kind of the average rates as well. So $0 down. I mean, that would be pretty crazy to be able to buy in the next couple months before rates go down across the board and values just shoot back up. So I know you
I
have to
think
live.
your market's going to be interesting though because you guys had such a huge hit to your
Mm-hmm.
market, and it was because of COVID. Like the whole boost was because people
Yep.
were working remotely and wanted to move other places. People from California went to Boise, where
Mm-hmm.
prices were $300,000, whereas the same house in Orange County was $1 million. Um,
Yep.
and so I'm curious to see what type of fluctuation you guys are going to see in prices, just because I think there's an interesting supply and demand feature in Boise.
Yeah, there really is, and I think it's kind of unpredictable. And there's thousands of multifamily units coming online over the next couple of years. Most new development has kind of stopped, but everything that was approved by like 2021 is now under construction and delivering soon. A lot of projects are converting from a 42 unit apartment complex. They're condoizing is a word that we're hearing a lot more. So they're
That's
basically
cool.
subdividing the building to create condos, and planning on selling them because that's the only way it pencils. Um, it's a net negative on cash flow every month to keep the 42 units as rentals. But you could sell half of them and keep the other half, and you might break even on cash flow for 3-4 years.
Hmm.
So a lot of people are kind of going that route. Um, or all the partners split it up. One guy gets 2 units, another guy gets five, another guy gets five, and you know what I mean. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see if I qualify for that, and try to get um, utilize that now before prices adjust, or even stay the same. It would be great to, because I know rents will raise when rates go down. So it'd be
Rents
a good,
pretty much go up. I've
yeah.
never been in a market where rents go down.
Yeah, well, the only one I know of in my life was San Diego during COVID, because nobody was moving in San Diego. Really, a lot of people were leaving San Diego, and no one was moving to San Diego. So I was looking on there, and the same places that I had looked at for $2,000 in 2018 were like 1,400. But that lasted like 6 months.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. Hmm. Well, I think there was also probably the thing where people were getting relief on rent, and kind of they were being very lenient with consumers on keeping up with payments.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people were taking the mortgage forbearance at that time, and so I wonder if that had an aspect to it where it's like, if you don't leave and keep making payments, I'll allow you to reduce your rent amount.
Yeah.
Or if you just keep making payments, don't skip any.
Yeah, yeah, that was an outlier for sure. But yeah, Boise's had 25% rent growth from 2018 to 2021, which was huge. And since then, it's been pretty stagnant. But the numbers are coming out again soon, and I bet you we'll see like another 2%, increase. As you know, a lot of these places that came online are filling up, and it's going to be another 6 months before all these new apartments come online. And most of the new apartments are in the suburbs. So the markets that I'm like most concerned with that I would invest in aren't really those suburbs. I'd want to stay. I'd be trying to move in a single family home in the area. Um, but yeah, I think also in Boise a factor that will impact home prices is that a new zoning code just got passed last year, and I can't believe it, but it's been since December of last year now. Um, but it allows for a lot more infill development. So ADU rules are a lot less stringent. Certain residential zones, like basically 30% of the residential zones of residential homes are now allowed to have more density. So a lot of these like beat up houses on 0.2 acre, you can put 8 units there, as long as it's tasteful townhome style with correct amount of parking and garage space. So you're seeing a lot of older homes sell to developers rather than flippers. Um, but my point is that single family homes on 0.1 to 0.2 acres, just the inventory of them, the quantity of them in Boise is only decreasing at this point. So there's no like lots available in town.
Well, yeah,
I mean,
so that would go with your theory that regular homes are going to go up in price, supply and demand. There's going to be less of them, and as long
yep,
as people still want to live in regular houses and not,
yeah,
in a
a
40-unit
condo,
townhome, yeah.
yep.
Hmm.
So it'll be interesting to see how that impacts pricing over the next couple of years, but definitely over the next
Yeah,
20.
and we'll see
Single
if that
family homes are,
NACA program will work for you. And I think that
yeah.
segues into our next topic pretty well. You said you were technically Puerto Rican, and you wanted to talk about Kamala.
or or sorry, I can't even irritate it. Oh my god, dude! Did you see? She's done a couple funny things. Like there was a video where she's talking about how dare you say Merry Christmas? It's Happy Holidays. Like, da, da, da. And then the following year it was like Merry Christmas, everyone on national
Yeah,
TV. And of course, uh, uh, she voted to tax tips on restaurant workers.
and a few months
God,
after he said it, I
and then
think. I
yep,
mean, I think I don't know. I'm trying to like wrap my head around what she's thinking. I think she's just so new to this level of politics because I like, for vice president, you kind of just get selected by one person. You don't have to run a whole campaign and get mass number of people to vote for you. And I think this is like it's so public how much she's learning right now.
yeah,
Um, and there was no chance that she was going to be selected if this went through the way it was supposed to go, where we have a Democrat nomination, people pick their candidates. There's no chance it would have been Kamala. And nobody was going to predict that. It's just the way that things happened, where Joe got pulled out, or he pulled out, or whatever happened, or if he's alive somewhere, I'm not really sure. Um, and she got thrown in, but there was no chance that she was going to get voted in. The polls were not in her favor. And so now she's trying to figure out, okay, well, how do I get mass number of people to like me and vote for me? And I think what she's trying right now is to do, what is Trump calling it, the chameleon stuff. So wherever she goes, she puts on a different accent, talks in a different way, and trying to connect those people through her personal mannerisms rather than, policies and saying I'm on your side and these kind of things. She's trying to do it more intimately, and I think it just comes off as really off-putting, kind of like you're saying, when she goes to Atlanta and puts on a southern accent, but she was raised in Canada. Like,
yeah. So silly, dude.
yeah. But I think that what you talked about with her announcing she's not going to tax tips, that was the most egregious offense that she's made so far, where it's just like, I don't know what to do. This seemed to get a lot of good traction. I'm going to do that too.
Yeah, just puppets, dude. Puppets. Yeah. It's pretty scary. What's kind of the way the direction we're kind of going with our leadership, and I've been another good segue. I've been heavily involved with the back to school stuff the last week or so. My son Rafi is going into kindergarten. Today was his first day, right? And just the lack of communication and competency of the system. Their communication skills are just horrible. We, you know, the day before the first day of school today. So yesterday we had the first like back to school thing. So the parents only, no kids. We got to walk into the classroom, meet the teacher, and she did like a PowerPoint presentation. And oh my gosh, if there weren't an insane amount of spelling and grammar errors on her PowerPoint. But you know,
Wow.
whatever. It's kindergarten. It's not high school AP English, but still. but but that was the first time I got like any information on what time school starts, what time school ends.
The day before.
Yeah, the day before. Even though I'd emailed asking because I'm like, I need to, make sure I'm not scheduling meetings at pickup time. Um, or what about after school care? How do I find information about that if I wanted to do that? Which I'm not, but they just never sent any info about how to sign up for that or how much it costs or nothing. You could get that information the day before school starts, which is asinine. But dude, the main point of this long drawn out thing was they showed the daily schedule of school. Before I tell you, let me ask you what do you remember from like kindergarten through fifth grade, elementary? What do you remember being your recess? Like what times, how many per day, and how long were they?
We got one recess. I remember it was somewhere between 30 and 45 minutes, and that when we would go outside, that was what we did for recess. There was
Just
a
once a
playground.
day.
Just, I mean, that's what I remember. Just once a day. I think we had recess and then we had gym class. So if like athletic, whatever they call it these days, but
Yeah.
so that was our two physical activities. You had recess, so it was free play, and then gym class, which is organized physical activities.
So did you have gym every day then?
No, we had it
Okay.
twice a week, I think.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I remember gym being twice a week, which at this school it is too. PE, it's like 40 minutes. And then they have three recesses, but the first one is 15 minutes, but that includes like the bell rings and they put their things away when the bell rings. They put their coats on and they line up and then they walk out to the playground, that's probably a total of 4 minutes. So
They
they
get
get 11 minutes to
yeah
play
5 to
outside.
10 minutes outside.
And then their lunch period is 40 minutes. Uh, but it's like whenever you're done eating, you can go outside. And it's like, well, Rafi takes 20 to 25 minutes to eat a meal, especially lunch, because he eats so much. So he's going to get 10 to 15 minutes to play outside after that, too, because he's got to take his lunchbox back to the classroom, get his coat, and go outside, right? So it's like another 10 minutes. And then at 2 o'clock, they have a literal 10-minute recess. And that, includes lining up, going outside. So it's like 5 minutes. And it's like this dude 2 days ago was in preschool where he would play outside for 4 hours and then have lunch for 40 minutes. And then he'd go play inside for 2 hours and then back outside to play for another 2 hours. He's going from that to sitting at a desk all day long, minus 3 10-minute running periods. It's like,
Jeez.
how is this reasonable for a little boy? You're like, how do they learn? Just sitting, he's just going to get in trouble, dude. I mean, so, we were talking a little before the pod, but I wish I could homeschool him right now, but probably like second grade through high school will probably be homeschool.
It's funny. I was thinking about this morning. Is that I was thinking, when's Rafi going to school? And it's like, this is such an important thing. And now that you're in kind of the daycare space, you should definitely like have a review or maybe even put out a survey to all the kids in daycare and say, what are the best schools in the area and why? And have that be like posted to all of everybody who signs up for Strive is like, okay, if you're looking for a date or a new elementary school or high school, this is what we recommend and because X, Y, and Z.
Oh yeah, kind of take a poll of what all the different schools offer.
Yeah, I mean, because how many families do you have at Strive? And
Mm-hmm.
probably like 50 or something.
Yeah. Well, that's how many kids. So like 35 families. A lot
Yeah,
of.
so I mean, I feel like that's a
Mhm.
pretty good poll to figure out, what the local schools are and why you should pick this one versus that one. And I think that would help out your people a lot. And I mean, you could even put yourself in there and about these kind of things because yeah, that seems bizarre to have a
Yeah.
10-minute recess period.
Yeah, and I also like there are charter schools, and I don't know if you know how that works funding wise, but they're basically public schools too, so they're free. But it's like instead of being run by the district, it's like basically they subcontract it out. So this charter school will build their own school, and then they just get funds from the district to run the school, and some of them are even for profit. But but yeah, some of the like those schools are all niche. Like there's one that's real heavy on engineering. There's one that's real big on business. There's one that's real big on science, or the arts. So you can kind of pick these niches. And
Aren't there ones for like athletics as well?
I, I bet you there's some that are more play based for the
Well,
elementary
I
age
mean more like
level.
train my kid to be a basketball star, like type thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about in Boise, but I bet you that those kinds of schools are those are going to be in like Los Angeles, Las Vegas, but bigger cities. I definitely haven't heard of any of that here. There is one school here that is freaking dope, dude. It is sports, but it's not a charter school. It's private school. But it's for kids who exactly what you said. It costs like 50 grand a year. It's downtown in this beautiful all glass building. You can see their full basketball court from like the sidewalk, and it's just like 2-story gym with glass from floor to ceiling. So you can watch the kids play basketball. And it's all about excellence through athletics. And but it's not charter school, so it's not free. If I was freaking rich, that's exactly where Rafi would go for sure. That school is sick. But I don't know if it's like the caliber where, like, what's his name? Giannis Antetokounmpo.
He's
Giannis from,
from Greece.
but didn't he go to some school out here? Or I know people from other countries have gone to those types of
I don't
schools
know.
here in the States. I
Yeah,
feel
no.
like he did,
There's
but
a
I
couple
could be
of
wrong.
basketball academies. Like when you get to
Mm-hmm.
high school, that's what they're called. And they're technically school, but they're focused on basketball.
Yeah. Yeah, man. If he becomes 6'9", like it'll definitely be worth looking at that. I don't know if you know, but his mom's dad was 6'9" and got drafted to the Hornets. He played at
Oh,
NC State,
didn't know.
4-year starter.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
just
really
start
good.
training him on ping pong, man.
Yeah, well, cool stuff, dude.
Well, hang on one more second on this on that charter school because I know like I went to private elementary school, and they had like programs for you know underserved communities. They would ship some kid every grade had 3 or 4 kids from out of the neighborhood that were on school lunches and had a discounted amount for tuition. Do you know if they have that kind of stuff for the charters for that? I guess for that school you were talking about.
Um, I didn't really reach out to see what kind of scholarships or anything. That's actually not a bad idea. I probably should, especially because she's a minority. They might do that.
Is he a minority? I mean, when
Yeah,
does it stop?
at 1/8.
1/8.
I
Okay.
think
Well,
one
that's
eighth.
him, right?
He's one
Oh,
fourth.
1/4. Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure at 1/8 is like the smallest you can go, and 1/16 that no longer counts. So, uh, at least that's what I recall from some scholarships I
Good for
applied
him.
to when I was in college.
Yeah. He's definitely gonna get some scholarships then. Good for him.
Yeah, buddy. We'll see if he even goes to college. I don't know. I'm definitely not paying for it. I think my parents contributed, but I had 33 1/3% that I had to cover with my loans, and it's like you can't get unburied from it. And I never made or would have made enough money to make it make sense. And I, you know, did one of those majors where you make good money even if you're an idiot, as long as you finish. Um, so I made more money coming out of school than any engineers from Purdue. And so I have no idea how they're faring. That they're kind of
Yeah.
stuck right around 6 figures at 40 years old. So
My thought for what I'm going to tell my kids is their goal in high school is to get their college paid for. however best they think they can do that. It's academic scholarship, athletic scholarship, whatever it is, that's their goal in high school. Or
Yeah.
if you
Start
don't
a
do that,
business.
then you're not going to college. You're going to do something else.
Yeah. Yeah. I won't co-sign on a loan. Like, I don't, I mean, maybe if you really, really wanted it, I'd think about it. I shouldn't say I would never, but, um, I just don't think that these days anymore with the internet and with, how many ways there are to make money and to learn about how to make money and the need for businesses to exist to provide like service businesses. I mean, it's just too easy to mow lawns with a crew of 3 guys and make 300 grand a summer. It's just too easy to do that to make sense to go to college to go work in an office for an
What
employer.
about this? I met somebody today who's got a moving company.
Yeah.
You rent a truck, get a couple of guys, and you can make $500 real quick. Like,
Oh yeah. 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 I mean, I've moved in town and the cheapest I could find was like $1,000,
yeah,
because they're basically paying guys $30 an hour and you got 2 guys moving you and 4 hour minimum, but they charge you $1,000. So they're paying their guys $350, insurance, overhead, email addresses, website handles, or domains, all
yeah,
that
truck,
stuff.
gas, equipment.
It's like 50% profit. It's crazy.
Yeah,
So, but yeah, man, um, it'll be interesting to see how kindergarten goes and the school system. I'm, definitely have a new perspective for it now coming out of the preschool. We're actually expanding the preschool this year. So
that's
we're
right.
taking over. I haven't told you this yet. We just found out on Friday last week that there's a suite in our building that the tenant wants to move out early. So the landlord's actually going to give us 3 months free rent, and so we're going to get to move in here in the next like month, and rent free while we renovate and ramp up.
You gonna be painting walls again?
Painting walls again, dude. Filling drywall, patching, uh, painting. Yeah, swapping out some door hardware maybe, and uh, you know, heavy cleaning, like what do you call it? A deep cleaning company come through and scrub everything, make it nice and shiny and new looking. So
Cool. Sounds fun.
yeah,
All right. Well, I think that's it for today. We're gonna call it a pod, and we'll see all of our listener next week. Love you, Mom.
love you, Miss T. See you later, dude.
Later.